This is the Chaos Coaster method. We're going to be going over it, and we're going to be discussing how to trade it, when to trade it, what to trade it with, and everything in between. So the first thing that we're going to go over to is actually this little snippet. This is the piece of data for the Chaos Coaster. It's very, very simple. What it shows is it just shows the name of it. It's beginner friendly, and it really, really is beginner friendly. It's a very, very simple method. I'm just going to turn that off. What indicators do we use? We're using LMI, we're using BJTSI, and we're using baseline overlay. I'll run through them on this chart in a minute. We're currently only really trading it on the 15-minute time frame, just because we haven't tested it on other time frames. You might find that it's perfectly viable for you in other time frames. It just needs testing. Preferred pairs, we're going to delete this because we've got more data on it now, and I'm going to show you what pairs that we've proven it to work on so far and where it's still being tested. When it comes to alerts, I will show you that, but in baseline overlay, what you will use is add alert, and you're going to use a bullish or bearish breakout alert. Very, very simple. Let's just cancel that before I end up adding it. What else do we need? Here's the rules. So candle closes on or above the green chaos channel line, a green LMI, a green TSI, enter on a buy with a 1.5 risk reward, and the stop loss is just set to the swing high or swing low. And then the inverse has to be true for our shorts. This is all of our settings, and I will quickly go on to the chart and show you. So we have a BJTSI, which if you don't know, you can just type BJTSI, and it's this one. Settings are as followed. Basically everything is normal, and in here you have all of these because everything is default, but you can scroll, you'll be able to scroll through the video when this goes up onto YouTube shortly. Again, in here is completely normal. In LMI, your settings are these three turned off, this set to area, just makes it nice and clear to see, that's all the differences. And then 1.45, 40 and 2.5, which I think from memory are the default settings anyway. And then I've got a sessions indicator because I'm going to be showing you different sessions and how they look on the chart, but you don't actually need that, so if you want you can just get rid of that. But you've also got baseline overlay, and the thing that we really want to pay attention to is turning this on, so show levels as fractal chaos channel. And then in the settings you'll see that I have everything turned off. I just accidentally clicked that. Yep. You'll see that I have basically everything turned off except those two chaos channel lines, and that's it. Now you can add yourself a ribbon or anything you want from baseline overlay to make it more pretty, if you just want to put some stars on there, or if you want like a moving average ribbon, you're more than welcome to do that, but it's not entirely necessary. Now, going back into how do we trade it. Again, candle closes on or above the green chaos channel, green LMI, green TSI. So, and we're also going to need to be in session. So if I just quickly put that sessions tool back up. Sessions on chart. And I am going to remove those two, but I'm also going to shrink this down by an hour. Now, the reason for that is I have got my hours on here, and I need to make sure that they line up, because this shows the hours we're testing in, and if they're not lining up, then that's not going to help. Now, all of the pairs that we're going through, we run through a test, and I'll show you an example. So if I pick up on NAS 100, everything is tested completely open in time frame, and then you'll see that we go and then filter out, what's it like if we're only taking the trades in London session? What's it like if we take 2 sessions, but not this one because its score was low? Or here's only New York, or here is only Asian session, just so that we can go and compare and contrast which sessions are beneficial. And then the mixed pair is any time you had a pair that on its own would score 20% growth or more in the 4.5 month test. So from the 4th of the 7th till the 15th of the 12th, 2023, anything that scores more than 20% growth in that period of time on one session gets added to that one session's mixed pair. So at the moment, London, we have USD MXN and NAS 100. On Asian session, we have USD MXN, and on New York session, we have NAS 100. But we will be adding a couple more pairs to each. Our goal is to get between 2 and 3 pairs so that you have a consistent number of trades per day, probably most sort of 2 trades a day. At the moment, if I was to show you this NAS 100, you'll see that in those 4.5 months, you have 225 trades, which is going to average around 50 trades a month, which is more than acceptable. And remember, this is just during London session. So if you're someone who trades London session, then you can pick this sheet up and look at the pairs you need and what your average growth and expectancy will be. If you trade only New York session, you can go and pick up the New York session sheet and go, I want to pick up these pairs. This is my average result. If I want to trade Asian session, I'm going to be able to go, I only need to pick up these pairs and these will be my average result. So everything is going to be there for you to give you a good picture of what you're getting in for. Now you can see that on London session, for instance, now because there's an overlap, you can see that this starts before this finishes, and the same with Asian session, there is 1 hour overlap. You'll see that there are some trades that show for these two, but it's just because that they're in the overlap window for New York, London. Now you can see that our overall, we should be looking in this case at a 50.67 win rate, and we know that our profitability point on a 1.5 risk reward is 40% exactly. So being over 10% above that, that's a pretty confident result. Now the 4 balances, these are based off of how much risk per trade. So in the case of risking 1% per trade, which is more than ample, you can see that it's this column. If you risk 2%, it's this one, 3%, and then we've got 10% risk per trade as well. And then you'll be able to scroll down, get to the bottom and go, right. So over those 4.5 months, the 1% risk per trade had gone up by 78%. And if we were to go, what you can do is you can take a copy of this, because I'll give this as a link as well. You can take a copy of this and you can work out where you would be in your prop firm. So for instance, a phase 1 challenge is normally 8%. So this would be the first trade. You could then go and copy this formula in to this square, which would be your first trade of the second phase. You could then run that and determine, right, so when that gets to, normally it's 4 or 5% for the second phase, wherever it's going to be for that prop firm, you would then run it through and go, right, this is where I would have passed. So this would be the live account point, and then you go and see how far you would end up at the end of each month. Now, this makes it nice and clear and simple for you. You can see roughly the sort of timescales it will take to pass challenges, to get X amount of earnings. You can go and adjust the initial balance. So for instance, if you were saying, I'm only going to trade a personal account where I am not trading prop firms, you could go and say, well, here's a $100 account, let's see what happens. And then you could look at how it's going to scale on X percentage risks. For instance, like the 10% scaled risk gets to 6,900 in that same 4.5 months. But again, it's a heavy risk. Now, of course, past back testing doesn't lead to future results. There can be discrepancies. One, you're not probably going to be active for every single London session for its entirety every single day. So you will probably miss some of these trades. However, if you're missing trades randomly, you can assume that it's going to be 50% win, 50% loss that you're missing. So you know that all that would happen is that rather than being, say, on this one, you might end up that you finish your 4.5 months here and you've just taken that many less trades. So the averages should work out in that case. Now, if we're going to look at it on a chart, you can see that, for example, here is an example of a short. Here is our short position. You would take it off the end of this candle. Swing high is going to be set to here because that's your little swing high. And again, you'd be going 1.5%, which in this case would have hit this wick beautifully. You could also, in theory, then take this buy because everything lines up for this buy. And again, I'm going to mark it up like this, the swing low. Now, because we know that this is a new spike, just simply because of how far it is away from the mean, you can call it this candle instead. And again, you should probably get the 1.5. It might be a bit tight. No, you do get it. Again, we're only expecting to win about 50% of our trades in this case anyway, because we're looking at the London session. Can't take this trade because unfortunately it started a little bit early. This doesn't count because it's just a wick, not a body. This would have been a nice lovely little trade you could have taken as well. And you can get a good sense that this is how you trade it. Very nice and simple, very easy to follow. Everything looks nice. Now, going beyond this, how are we going to push it in future? Well, you can see that we are still testing different pairs, and there's going to be a few more pairs that get added. Again, mixed pairs, I'm going to get up to probably 3 pairs on each pair list. So at the moment, London session's only looking for 1 more pair. USD Asian session's looking for 2 pairs, and NAS is looking for 2 pairs. You can see that our average win rates are floating around the 50%, which again is fine because we're only needing 40% to be profitable. Now, I have covered everything that you need for this method. All that you need to do is actually trade it. Again, if you want access, all you have to do is go to our store, wap.com/perfect-entry. There's a link to it in chat and in the storeroom. You'll need the full Market Master package because LMI is only included in the full Market Master package and above. But other than that, this is a method. You can trade it. You can trade it very, very easily. And we've even marked out what to trade and when to trade it. There should be no ambiguity in your trading for 2024. This is a year where you can go, right, I am trading this at this time and this method. And you know what you're going in for and you know what you should be getting. That's it.